On today's show, Deandre Ayton is actually going back to the Phoenix Suns. How does that change the landscape of the West for the Dallas Mavericks? And who's the Mavs' second best player right now? I think there's a conversation there. We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Shouldn't be. And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Where the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Shout out to the anything squad down there that just type anything. Love it. Let us know down below, who's the Mavs' second best player right now? After Luka Doncic, who's the Mavs' second best player? We're curious. Joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, writer at Mavs.com, the Summer League Legion, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Yes, it just came from the arena doing the Mavs.com live stream alternate broadcast of the game. It was a lot of fun. Bobby, Austin Garuya talking all through the game. Much better game to do that through than that first game we tried where it's 30-point game. But so before tip, I was getting some shots up in the practice court down there. And getting some shots up. Nice reminder that NBA 3-point range, pretty far.
It's a distance.
Just wanted to throw that out there. That
so give Josh Green some slack, guys.
No. So I played not too long ago on an outside court, and it's like, all right, took a few shots to get the rhythm back a little bit. I got out there tonight and I got some shots up, just like 3 straight air balls. I'm like, this is way further than what my arms are accustomed to. So anyway, shout out to NBA players. They're good.
On today's show, we're going to get into Deandre Ayton. The will they, won't they of the Phoenix Suns. What does it mean? Is there fallout there? What does it mean for the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant? That whole saga and the landscape of the NBA and the West. How does that affect the Mavs? We'll talk about that. And then I kind of want to talk about who the Mavs' second best player is, because right now it's sort of unclear, right? It's like when Jet died in the Ember Island Players from Avatar. Then we'll talk about Summer League. The Mavericks did play a game against the Bucks. Jaden Hardy, AJ Lawson, Moses Wright showed out in that game. We'll talk about our thoughts after 4 games for those guys later in the show. But let's start with this. Deandre Ayton signed an offer sheet, or was about to sign an offer sheet, agreed to sign an offer sheet with the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers make some moves. They waived Dwayne Washington Jr. Remember Dwayne Washington Jr. dropped 22 on the Mavs one night? We were like, who is this guy? What is going on? But and then they also dropped a bunch of other players and stretched some players and actually made roster moves to try and get the space available for Ayton. They get him to a max, a 4-year max. And Phoenix immediately, within 3 minutes, I think Gambo said it was within 3 minutes, a Phoenix reporter, that Phoenix matched it. And there's all this will they, won't they? Is Sarver too cheap to match it? And all this kind of stuff. It's interesting now, but Ayton is back on the Phoenix Suns. He's gonna play there, but he is probably not happy to be back necessarily. And it doesn't look like Phoenix is gonna be able to get Kevin Durant as easily or as quickly as we thought.
This is the weird part of restricted free agency, that it's like, hey, go out and get an offer sheet from somebody else because we don't want to pay you that. And then we'll match it. And then you got to come back with open arms. Do they do a presser? And they're like, yeah, we're really excited to have DA back.
Sarver's there. He's like, this is our plan the whole time.
It's so weird. And it was so weird, seeing the posturing game of hey, we're going to sign him. He's going to sign it, but he hasn't signed it yet. But then Phoenix well, we don't want to do a sign and trade with you at all. And it's they were almost calling the Pacers bluffs down. And the Pacers all right, we're just going to waive our 4 dudes and we're going to sign him to the actual offer sheet. And it was just so weird because, like you said, it's now he's just going back. Now he has, a full no trade clause basically for a full year. He can't get traded even if he wanted to until mid-January.
Yep.
So it's 6 months from that. So still before the deadline. But just a weird weird situation. And now he's just back in Phoenix like it never happened.
And some people are going to say, hey, this is a really smart move by Phoenix because they get him on a lower deal. Like they save some money on that deal because they don't give him the 5-year full max with, all full all throughout. It's just the 4-year max, which is a little bit lower overall and all that. But you got to consider what Ayton feels like in all this, right? Like, is he going to demand a trade as soon as he can? And he basically can decide where he wants to go in a trade when that happens.
He's under contract for 4 years.
No, isn't there part of like his no trade is like it's essentially a no trade.
Yeah,
it's not like a no trade, but he could demand a trade and like they could send him somewhere and he would have to agree on it. It's the Nerlens thing.
Yeah,
remember?
He would have to agree to it. Yes, I mean for Phoenix's side, they didn't lose an asset for nothing. And
this is me falling my head on my desk.
For Phoenix, they probably looked at it and was like, all right, DeAndre Ayton doesn't want to be here. They clearly didn't want to pay him that much money, or else they wouldn't have told him to go out and find the cap. But they looked at it and said, what? It's like, we're not going to be able to replace you, but with another like free agent.
Bismack's not coming in there and filling that void.
Yeah. So whether we want you on this team long-term or not, whether you want to be here long-term or not, the asset alone, we will overpay. We'll pay more than what we think you are or worth to keep you on the team. So in 6 months or a year from now, we can turn you into something that we really want on the team and where you want to be too. So,
and now he's like the 4th highest paid center in the NBA.
I mean, it sounds crazy, but I mean, then again, he was the number 1 overall pick. He was in the finals 2 years ago. Like he's not bad. Like I didn't like, so I don't mind that part. I think he's going to keep getting better. You have to do it. Like you.
Last year there were 6 centers on the max: Gobert, Jokic, Bam, Cat, Anthony Davis, and Embiid. And now Ayton is going to be on that list. Yeah,
I mean, he's a super young center. I mean, he's clearly the youngest center out of that whole crew. So it's just a weird situation. And from a Dallas angle, I think a lot of Mavs fans, myself included, I was hoping he would go to Pacers.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, Sarver, be cheap here. Don't pay him. Like, let him walk for nothing. That was the dream. It's like, all right, well, if all else fails, they'll do a sign and trade. And, I don't know. Will they be as good with Miles Turner if they get him back, all this stuff? But this is what you don't want really from a Mavs angle, because them keeping Ayton, they're basically keeping their same team intact if they don't make any other trades. And this same team that won 60 something games. So they're probably going to be near the top of the West again, or the top 4.
They did. I'm curious as to how the Ayton relationship holds up and all that. I'm just curious how that works out. I'm curious how it all plays out.
Maybe they'll play Call of Duty with him.
But late into the evening, late into the night. But then the other thing is, I don't know if they can get Kevin Durant as easily because they can't trade Ayton now. They can't put him in a deal. They can't do a sign and trade or like any kind of 3-team deal or anything like that. So that takes him off the table. So now I saw somebody, I think it was Evan Sidery, put together like, all right, here's the trade Phoenix can make now. It's Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, stuff, and a bunch of picks. Like, yeah. I don't know if that's getting Joe Tsai like out of bed to make a Kevin Durant deal as of right now.
No, I mean, it's not for me unless you turn it into some type of, I think Bobby Marks threw out his hypothetical trade, which
crazy one.
This is just the world that we live in now, that ESPN is just throwing hypothetical trades up there. But at least that one came from somebody who worked from ESPN instead of a fake site.
stands for entertainment, Isaac.
But like, his hypothetical had Donovan Mitchell and Mikal Bridges and Miles Turner going to Brooklyn. Obviously, that was part of a DeAndre Ayton sign and trade mega deal, all that stuff. So that can't happen anymore at all. But is there a world that, they try to loop in Donovan Mitchell somehow, and it's I don't know, but yeah,
I know, right?
I do think that their shots at getting Kevin Durant took a big hit. Not impossible, but I think it definitely took a big hit.
And now we have to wait on this. We'll wait on the Kevin Durant saga for a while. We'll wait on the Donovan Mitchell saga for a while, and it seems like the Mavs are going to keep waiting on those two sagas to play out before or if they make another move.
I'll tell you this. I'd rather the Suns have DeAndre Ayton instead of Kevin Durant.
That is a hot take right there, my friend.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that if you want to look at the positive from it and say, all right, what's one positive? I would much rather have, that happen instead of Durant and Devin Booker and, another piece there teaming up for the next, couple of years. So that's that. All of us right now are waiting on Donovan Mitchell, and let's see what happens with that. Let's see if,
or Durant.
Yeah, or Durant, and see what the fallout of that. Let's see what teams like the Jazz or whatever teams out there start, shipping off some of their vets. Like, there's still deals out there with teams that they're probably just on hold. Teams that are not even dealing with the Nets, but they're just on hold because it's like, all right, let's just wait some of this stuff out. Like, look at Phoenix. They're $15 million over their luxury tax right now. What if they want to get rid of like Jay Crowder?
Oh, trade deadline time. They are getting rid of somebody for sure.
Yeah, well, it's like what if they look across at like a San Antonio who has cap space and says, hey, we want to get rid of Jay Crowder. And then it turns into like a 3-teamer to where like Jay comes to Dallas. Dallas sends like a Dwight Powell to San Antonio's cap space. There's like, a couple seconds involved in that. Phoenix is shedding money. Dallas gets another wing. San Antonio uses some cap space, but gets a couple seconds. It's that type of stuff that it's like, there's so many fallout type of options from these trades that we just got to wait and see, and waiting sucks.
Absolutely. So, all right, coming up, let's get into who the Mavs' second best player is, because it's not very clear right now. It's not clear at all, actually, because some people think their second best player is coming off the bench. We'll talk about why that is and who is the second best player coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline has all the odds, lines, scores, spreads, everything you need. They have Coach of the Year next year. Who do you think's number one for Coach of the Year, the highest odds for NBA?
Oh, gosh. I don't know.
First name,
Steve Kerr?
First name, 3 letters.
Steve Kerr.
Ime Udoka. Steve is 5 letters. Ime Udoka, number 1 at plus 600. Chris Finch of the Wolves is plus 700. Taylor Jenkins of the Grizzlies plus 900. And then tied at 4 and 5. They're destined to play again in the playoffs this year. Jason Kidd and Ty Lue, both plus 1,000 for Coach of the Year next year. So if you're thinking pretty highly about Jason Kidd's odds next year, go ahead and put some money down on him. Steve Kerr is actually all the way down at 1,600. He's behind Nick Nurse, Monty Williams, Michael Malone, and then those 5 guys I mentioned before. Darvin Ham, Lakers coach, plus 2,000. That dude's not getting any credit if they're good next year.
Wow.
So go ahead and check it out at BetOnline. Check out all the spreads. It's BetOnline where the game starts. All right, Isaac Harris. We've talked a lot about Christian Wood, lineups. We've talked a lot about Jalen Brunson. He's gone. And now the Mavericks have the best player, one of the best players in the NBA, maybe the best player in the NBA, Luka Doncic. But who's the second best player next to him? Who's the guy that people will look to by the end of the season? Jalen Brunson was not the second best player by the start of last season, but he became the second best player by the end of the season. Who will be that person this year?
Well, it's one of 3 guys, right? We're debating, Christian Wood versus Spencer Dinwiddie versus Dorian Finney-Smith. If you want to throw Josh Green in there, you can. I think it's probably a 3-person debate. If Dragic signed, would Dragic been number 2 on this list? I don't know.
Stop.
Can we just make it a point that Dragic's name has to be on every single pod for the offseason?
No, we've hit full-time Dragic fatigue.
It has to just be tossed in there somehow. I think it's Spencer Dinwiddie. And just as the other ball handler, the other scorer, if we're talking about, I think he's had bigger moments than a Christian Wood. I don't even think Christian Wood's even a debate for me at that top spot. I think Christian Wood's number 3. I think it's just a Dinwiddie versus Dorian, because the argument for Dorian is reliability, defense. He's a knockdown. He is the definition of 3-and-D guy that everybody wants in the league. Dinwiddie, I lean Dinwiddie just because I think Dinwiddie can do just a little bit more with the ball. He can score. He can put up 30 in a game. He's bigger, all of that. The injury concern, in the past, yes, but I think Dinwiddie has a higher ceiling than what Dorian does. And that's no disrespect to Dorian. I think Dorian's a close second in this.
I agree that Dinwiddie has a higher ceiling than Dorian. I think Christian Wood has a higher ceiling than both of them. I just think that Christian Wood, I think if it all works out and it all plays out and Jason Kidd's ladder of motivation works out for Christian Wood and he gets back into the starting lineup and then he, all that stuff, I could see him being like a 20 and 10. He could be 20 and 10 on the Mavs pretty easily, shooting, 40% from three, playing decent enough defense to stay in that starting lineup. And I could see him having just a really good season like that. Is he going to get the opportunity? That's what we don't know at this point. It seems like Spencer Dinwiddie's getting that opportunity from the start. So if he is going to be that guy, then he's going to be able to show it right away. But we've seen, Christian Wood has had a 39-point game, a bunch of 30-point games. He averaged 20 points for a whole season with the Rockets. So like we've seen him with the capacity to have some of these really good games before. And I think that matters, the talent that he's shown. You can use him a bunch of different ways too. You can use him as pick and roll, pick and pop. You can just use him to spread the floor, like space the floor, just like with Dorian. But Dinwiddie with the ball in his hands, like one of the things SJ said on her podcast, the podcast I had her on the other day, was that he's going to be the most hated player by the end of the season because a lot is going to be asked of Spencer Dinwiddie. And if a lot is asked of Dinwiddie and he doesn't come up big and he doesn't like live up to the hype with it, then he's going to be the scapegoat because a lot is going to be on him next year.
Oh yeah. And especially because we've seen the level that Brunson played at. There's a difference between Dinwiddie just being he went from last year being hey, we got off the KP contract and we got Dinwiddie and Bertans. So it's almost like, it's almost like whatever we got for Dinwiddie last year, like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And he came off the bench. It was like a 6-man role. He was very important, but still, and it's like now this year, it's like, hey, you got to be number 2 next to Dinwiddie as far as like running the offensive team. And that's what Brunson got so good at, especially in the playoffs. Smart, the footwork, countering Luka and all of that. And it's like, all right. So I definitely could see that. Is it, this could be like a negative segment for like 2 minutes be here, but
well, it kind of is. Cause like because these are the names we're talking about for second best player on the Mavericks. Like,
is there who other teams in the West, what other team has a bigger drop from player 1 to player 2?
Well, it's tough because Luka is like one of the best players in the NBA. So his drop,
I get that.
His drop from him to anybody is the biggest. But if you start going down the list,
just compare. No, take that question out.
Jazz,
just compare.
The Jazz has the biggest one right now.
Number 2, Jared Vanderbilt's pretty good. Just compare the number 2 guys across the West.
Yeah.
Outside of just the bottom teams there, who, like, Memphis has better number 2, Denver, Minnesota, New Orleans, Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix. It's Jeremy Grant. Yeah, I said New Orleans. Like Portland, even like Sacramento, like Sabonis, Fox, like they would clearly be the second best on this team.
You take both those guys over anybody on the Mavs?
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
Yeah. So, outside the bad teams, you're maybe having the debate with Portland and Jeremy Grant. But like,
yep.
So like that's the type of thing though. Like you have to account some of this in there. Like Luka is so dang good, but like, some of you guys listening to this are like, oh, y'all are already so negative on the season. Like you have to take some of this into account as far as the overall talent of this team. And it doesn't say everything because we've definitely seen a certain team in history make a big run with a star player and a non all-star cast. But you don't always want to play with those odds. So, if you can put, guys around him. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Do you think there's any chance Tim could jump into this? In the playoffs, the 2 years against the Clippers, he averaged 17 points a game, second leading scorer on the team.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, I just don't know what that means to me. I don't know what that means because I feel like I can look at other teams who lose in the first round and say, who's your second highest scorer? And like Utah against Dallas, was Jordan Clarkson the second highest leading scorer on the Jazz? Probably, maybe Bojan. So I just don't know I just don't know what that is telling me a ton. I think maybe if you're looking at it and it's like, hey, we made a deep conference finals run and this guy was your second leading scorer, I think I would be walking away from that saying, hey, all right, that resulted in a deep playoff run,
Bogdanovich, 18 points a game. He was second. Clarkson was third at 17.5 points a game. So,
okay. So Tim's in kind of that same ballpark there. So
right.
Can he get hot for a stretch and you're like, hey, dude's balling out right now? Yes. But overall, I think I would put Tim fourth on that with Christian Wood if he's on the team next year.
Is there a kid? So the Mavericks obviously they don't have the second one of the best second players in the NBA, but or in the West. But now that we have this conversation where you could throw Tim and Reggie in this, where it's like the Mavs next five. I think I would take the Mavs next five over a lot of other teams' next fives.
That's the counter. Yes, right. That is the counter. It's not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2 here as far as the second best player. The counter is all right, 2 through 5. Or 2 through 6, however you want to do it. What's the other 2 through 6s look like? Because then you look at a team like the Lakers.
Oh god,
and it's like yeah, they had the better second player in Anthony Davis and LeBron, but then after that, it's like I would take any Maverick over the next 3 guys for them. Any Maverick over Westbrook, Horton Tucker, Lonnie Walker.
Especially when you start talking about the 4th and 5th players on those lists, right? Like the Nuggets.
Yes.
Who's the Nuggets next best? Is that KCP, the next player after Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Gordon?
I really like what the Nuggets did this offseason.
The Nuggets are solid too, but the Mavs don't have that solid second guy for sure.
Yeah.
But they have a 2 through 5, 2 through 6 that is pretty good and pretty solid, and it's nice to have
kind of like Memphis in a way.
Yep.
Jaren Jackson is, I guess, they're number 2, but he's hurt a lot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Desmond Bane's really good. He played college down the street here, DFW.
Stop it.
But they have a lot of dudes, and Dallas has a lot of dudes too. So you're banking on the team chemistry, overall fit, good coaching. It's ultimately why they got to the conference finals.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, let's talk about this Summer League team. They've played 4 games now. They're about to play their 5th game on Saturday, but let's talk about what we've seen so far from Jaden Hardy, from AJ Lawson, from Moses Wright, and everybody. Talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into Summer League. The Dallas Mavericks Summer League squad went and played a game against the Bucks. They lost the game, right?
They did, yes.
They lost the game. They've lost all 4.
They were winning at some point, though.
Isaac tweeted, "Come join the stream. The Mavs are winning, and they're down by 10."
Did I start that draft when they were winning, and then I turned my phone
You started that draft 40 minutes before you tweeted it. But the Mavericks did lose this game 100 to 89. Moses Wright was the big standout in this game. He had an incredible second half. He finished the game with 26 points, 11 boards, 4 of them were on the offensive end. He had 3 assists, 2 steals, didn't have any blocks, which is kind of surprising for him. Did end up with 6 fouls. You get 10 in Summer League, so that's fine. And he was 10 of 16 from the field, hit a 3, hit 5 of his 7 free throws. What have you thought about Moses Wright in this game and then just Summer League in general so far?
I thought he struggled over the first game or so. Then he was DNPCD. Yeah. Well, I don't know how much of his benching versus them just wanting to rotate some guys out. Some Justin Gorham didn't play the other day for a game, and they played some of these other guys, and then some of these other guys Kerr played a lot the other day. Kerr didn't play in this game. So I wonder if it's a matter of just hey, we just want to see different guys, combination of dudes. But Moses Wright, like you said, didn't play at all in the previous game. He comes out in this game, and this is what I want to see from him, because I haven't been. He's protected the rim a decent amount, but AJ Lawson's gotten all the love, and it's all right. Well, if the Tyler Dorsey stuff, which we haven't seen anything official, whatever you want to feel about that, if there's only one other 2-way spot, AJ Lawson's getting all the love. How's Moses feeling right now? And this is the response I want to see from him. This guy's coming from my teammate. It's this guy's coming from my spot. I want to show out, and he showed out a lot tonight. Well,
and he's been with the team since February. We have to remember that he was the one that got signed to a 2-way spot, was with the Mavericks the entire playoff run, in all those images of the bench with the bench decorum where Theo Pinson created a new rule in the NBA because of his bench decorum, that he's there. He's part of all those moments. So he's been with this team, with this coaching staff, with Jared Dudley, with Darryl Armstrong, who got a technical foul from the bench today. But Moses Wright has been that guy, and so he should be the one thinking, hey, I've got this 2-way spot. And after his couple like pretty bad showings the first 2 games, we kind of just wrote him off. And for me, like in this type of game, so he's a 6'8" center. And I think he had to be show a little bit quicker to me to be able to play a wing, because I don't think he can play a big in the NBA. He'd have to be like a small ball 5 or a 4, but like he'd have to space the floor better in the NBA. So like if you're starting to talk about what his role is, like I'd rather roll the dice with a guy like AJ Lawson who fits perfectly that wing role instead of Moses Wright, who I try to envision. This is the exact same thing I did with like Marvin Bagley in the draft when we were leading up to that 2018 draft. When we did all our draft profiles, I'm like, okay, for him to be really good in the NBA at that role, at what he does, how good would he have to be at certain things? And I don't know if Moses Wright is there for me at this point. I could see AJ Lawson's path clearer than I could see Moses Wright's path.
Yeah, exactly right. I feel the exact same way. I like Moses. It's just, I don't think he's agile, quick enough on the wing. And I don't know if he's like big enough. It's like theoretically you look at him like, all right, can you be a small ball 5 type thing? So I feel you on that.
And you just look at the way he got his points tonight, right? Like you see the way he great in pick and roll. It's the reason why he was the G League all first team this past year. Really great in the pick and roll. He can finish around the basket, like he puts back dunks, all that fun stuff. But then when you just give him the ball, he immediately just goes to post up, back to the basket, and then just like take one big hard dribble and then try to dunk on somebody or just finish with like a hook shot or something like that. That's how he gets his points. None of those points happen in the NBA like that, right? Like there's just too many big dudes in the NBA for him to get off shots like that. And so that's where it makes it difficult for me, because that's the style of his game. I was hoping to see a little bit more of like a face-up game or just a spot-up shooting game or anything like that. And he just defaulted back to what he's good at, which he should do. But to make it in the NBA, I was curious about how those other facets of his game were. We just haven't seen it.
Yeah, so Jaden Hardy, obviously the biggest name summer league for Mavs, going and watching him. It's another inefficient type of game for him. 0-6 from 3 of 13. I hope our listeners can see why we were saying what we did after they drafted him, and the hype train got so big and so fast. And we're excited.
It was fun.
It's fun, and I'm excited too. But I got some DMs. Some people was like, "Oh, why are you hating?" I'm like, I'm not hating. I'm just saying I think it's going to take time. Yeah, like it's just part of it. It's just going to take some time for him, and we've seen that over the past handful of games. I was never at the spot to say he's going to be our 6th man, and it's just going to take time for him. I think it's going to be exciting. It's just he's got time.
This guy's playing Dragic minutes on this team.
He's got time to grow. He's got time to get
and he does. And you can see like there's areas of his game. He's got I also want to give him a little bit of slack in the last 3 games that he's had, because after that first game, he drops 28. He had that game-winning 3 that if it went down, we all would have went insane and we would have let it ride for days. And then I don't know if he saw single coverage for the rest of Summer League. The rest of the next.
Well, tonight he had single coverage, but it's Beauchamp.
Yeah, right. And Beauchamp's supposed to be like the one of the best wing defenders in the draft that just came out. And he played with him at G League Ignite. Like he knows his game so well. So it's hard to go against a guy like that. But even in this game, I feel like anytime he turned a corner, there was another guy there. Anytime that he got by somebody, there was some help. Anytime I guess this Bucks defense was pretty good, but he also is not the quickest guy. And so it gives other defenders time to catch up to him. But I don't know if he saw single coverage a lot these last 3 games, and it's been tough for him. You won't see that. He won't see that in the NBA as much, which I think will help him. He'll get more spot up shots. He got a couple spot up shots tonight that looked good, but didn't go down. He just missed the shot, but he's not going to be just like giving the ball, all right, go make something happen. That's just not his game at this point in the NBA, and he'll have to develop into that and work with Shammgod, man. That's gonna be my thing for him. If I don't see him with Shammgod all the time, I'm gonna be calling Mark Cuban. I'll email him. I'll email his Gmail and I'll say, hey, why is Jaden Hardy not working with Shammgod?
There's a couple times tonight he's really comfortable in the mid range, and if he can just get to the nail, he can get there in the paint. That free throw line spot is just nothing but net, and that's a sweet spot. And I like a lot of his game. I'm excited for him to be in Dallas. I'm excited to see him work with Shammgod and stuff. So, and he's going to be I think he's going to be a nice like victory cigar in a way, a lot of fun for us, in the blowout games of, Hardy's going to get in there, have some fun. And hopefully, we'll see how the guard rotation shakes out, after there's some follow, some trades and stuff, but who knows? I mean, he might at least get some minutes here and there. And I think that's where it ends for me. It's Moses, Hardy, it's AJ Lawson. Outside of that, I'm not, Bingham hasn't shown me enough. Gorham hasn't shown me enough. And remember, I know we're all talking about AJ Lawson. We really like him. If let's just say that Tyler Dorsey has one of those spots locked up, it doesn't mean that Dallas has to get their guy from here. It's the end of last summer league that just right as soon as it's done, Dallas signs Ja'Cory McLaughlin from from Golden State, and it's like, well, crap, I don't even watch him in summer league. So they could do that. Another team could do that for AJ Lawson as soon as this thing's over. I mean, they could have a deal ready to go with AJ Lawson and another team. But if I'm Dallas, I would be happy if AJ Lawson got the second two-way.
Who was the guy we were waiting for last year in summer? Was it Omarui? I think Omarui we were waiting for, like, he's got to get that second spot. It was either Omarui or Carlik Jones or somebody. And then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, it was like Ja'Cory McLaughlin. And we were like, what? Like, what is happening?
I remember there's camp invites too. So you have 15 full roster spots. You have the two-ways. And then you have basically 3 other camp invites. You can bring 20 people to camp. If I could see them taking that last two-way spot or one of those two-way spots open into camp. And then you have, 4 guys at a camp invite in preseason fighting for that one spot.
I think we should mention that AJ Lawson's agent posted an Instagram photo of him and AJ Lawson. And it said, the caption was, working on a deal, #Dallas Mavericks, #Summer League. My guess on that is that they're working on some kind of Exhibit 10 deal for him. And that they'll work on that. He'll come into camp, and then there'll be him versus Moses Wright, maybe versus Tyler Dorsey, versus whoever the other ones are for those two-way spots. That'd be my guess. What's your read on that whole AJ Lawson two-way situation?
Maybe he's signing a sponsorship deal.
Ooh.
I don't know.
He could be. I don't know.
I mean, if we're going off Instagram stuff, Josh Green's lighting up the highlights on Instagram.
His shot looks better, though.
Better than Dennis's.
2 days in a row. Wow.
Did Josh and Willie Cauley-Stein, like, could they collab? No. Could they collab?
Can I turn your video off? Is that possible? No.
We need an Instagram like clip for just some highlights.
The music wasn't as good on Josh Green's as it was on Willie's. That's for sure.
Nah, Willie's is good. Willie's got me hyped. It like that's good stuff.
There you go. That's the Mavericks this week. Guys, I am going to be taking a vacation.
Stop it. Don't say it. I don't believe it.
I am leaving you guys in the very capable, awesome hands of Isaac Harris for 2 weeks. If something happens...
Don't yell at me about audio. Don't yell at me about transitions. Don't yell at me about ad reads. Yeah, don't yell at me about anything.
Whoever listens to the podcast and hates me yelling the whole time will be. You'll see, guys. You'll see. But Isaac's gonna be taking care of the podcast, so we won't miss an episode unless something crazy happens to Isaac and his family. But yeah, I don't know.
Unless something happens to Isaac's family. What is this, Taken? Like, want to go like Liam Neeson mode? Or like, sorry guys.
I don't know who you are, but I have a very specific set of skills.
I don't know who you are, but I have a podcast.
You're talking about Taken. I'm the one going to Europe.
That's true. European vacation. If you are really dedicated to this pod, you take your freaking equipment.
I have to record at like weird hours of the day and night. But yeah, it's been an incredible run. I'm excited to get some.
Won't you tell them what you're doing though? You're going to France to be with Luka and to help.
I missed him by 10 days. I'll be in Paris, but I missed him by 10 days. I missed him. I missed Captain Marvel. She was there at Disneyland Paris. Missed everybody. Miss Marvel was there. But yeah, so Isaac will be taking care of the podcast. And yeah, go listen to Locked On NBA. Wes Goldberg, Adam Mares, great stuff. They were both in Vegas, so they'll have lots of stories and stuff to share on Locked On NBA. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!
I'm going to die.